You've probably seen this meme before, or at least a variation of it. It's of a man and a woman walking down the street holding hands. The man gawks at another woman passing by, and his partner just stares at him, mouth wide open in utter shock. There's a version of the meme circulating on social media in Tijuana. In it, the man is represented by thousands of National Guard troops who've been deployed in Baja California to tackle the spiking homicide rate. His girlfriend? Tijuana residents who are supposed to be protected by the National Guard. And the other woman? Well, she represents Tijuana flea markets. Maria Cortez makes her living in the city's flea markets. She sells secondhand clothes, and she laughed when I asked her to explain the meme to me. Cortez says that the National Guard troops come from parts of Mexico where American goods like Nikes and Levi's are hard to come by. So they like to shop around in the flea markets while they're in Tijuana.
Y cuando vienen a Tijuana entran a Sobre Ruedas y miran los tenis Nike, viene la ropa de marca, ven cosas que allá donde vienen ellos no hay aquí, pues voltean y andan viendo qué compran.
And while the troops shop, Cortez and others say that neighborhoods in Tijuana remain besieged by violence. There were more than 1,900 homicides last year in Tijuana. At first, residents were happy that the federal government was finally taking action.
Cuando recién llegaron, fíjate que sí intimidaba, ¿no? Había como esa presencia, dices, ay, qué padre, ya nos sentimos más protegidos, ya a ver.
But there's already been more than 1,700 murders in Tijuana so far this year, on track to surpass last year's total. The National Guard troops stationed in Tijuana did not respond to a request for comment. This isn't the first time that Mexico has turned to the military to fight crime. Cecilia Farfán Méndez is a researcher at UC San Diego. She traces today's efforts back to 2006.
So the argument that was made about in 2006 was that because there was corruption in civilian law enforcement institutions, we needed to deploy the armed forces in a way that they had not been involved before until, these other institutions, the civilian institutions, were developing up and corruption was rooted out of them. So it was always meant to be a temporary solution.
Now, nearly 2 decades later, city and state police forces are still considered corrupt and ill-equipped to tackle cartel-level violence. In September, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador doubled down on the militarization strategy. He passed a law that formally made the federal police force part of the military. So far, the data show that this hasn't worked.
Despite these deployments, we don't see security conditions improving in Mexico.
Maria Cortez doesn't need data to know that her neighborhood is still a dangerous place. She recently gave me a tour. She pointed out the house where the local meth dealer lives and the playground that people use to shoot up heroin. They operate in the open, and Cortez says that the National Guard still does nothing to stop them.
Claro que no, nada. Ellos no. Tienen miedo, yo creo.
Cortez says that the soldiers are either scared or they just don't want to bother. To make matters worse, soldiers in other parts of Mexico have been accused of human rights violations. Farfán Méndez says this is also something that isn't new.
What has been documented over the years, especially by human rights activists, is that unfortunately these deployments tend to really erode human rights.
Teresa Martinez is a researcher for the think tank México Evalúa. She has spent years conducting fieldwork in neighborhoods like the one where Maria Cortez lives. She says that the current conditions are so bad that people are actually willing to sacrifice some of their own civil rights for more protection.
My rights, like for citizens, my rights has been violated every single minute, every single day by the organized crime or any other criminal. So I don't care about the human rights.
But she says that's only acceptable if the armed forces brought here to protect them actually accomplish their mission. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.